Hey guys, Patrick with Karting Concepts, and I've got the CompKart Covert 4R chassis, and this chassis is built specifically for the 206 and KA100 engine. The frame itself is comprised of 28 and 30 millimeter tubing, and it's got a 50 mil axle with 17 mil spindles. And as you can see, this thing is just beautiful. I actually had to turn the exposure rate down on the camera just to get it to film right because it's so bright. It just wanted to whitewash everything. I mean, you can see this thing from space. There's actually a lot of chrome inlay done on the graphics that I don't know if it'll come out on film, but they did it with a really cool stippling effect, and stippling is basically more condensed or less condensed dots to make a gradient. So this whole panel here and the front section and the whole sides, it's actually all got chrome in it, and the whole package just looks amazing. I'm sure a lot of you have seen recently the success that CompKart's been having everywhere around the whole world, not just here in the US. It's a homologated chassis, so it can be used anywhere. Just recently they won Challenge of America Rock. They just won the SCUSA Winter Tour for tag as well. And the Super Nats in Las Vegas that they just had, they also won for senior and master in tag. And everything about CompKart and the chassis, you can see that they put a lot of focus and details into it. There's a lot of cool features about this chassis that I haven't seen in other chassis. And the people behind the company at CompKart themselves, it's been really, really nice to work with. They're just, you can tell that they've got one pure focus, and they're really friendly, and they just want to have fun and win races, and they want everybody that deals with their product to just have fun and win races as well. And their chassis is just, I mean, when I built this thing, everything just fit together just right. There's a lot of chassis that might have to file something here or there. This thing just went together really, really well. And like I say, there's a lot of detail on it that you don't see on other chassis, and the components of them, and just all the little tiny little features that just really make it a really, really nice package. So anyways, I'll go ahead and zoom in on some of the features of it. And like I say, this is the 4R, so this is built for the KA100 and 206. This is a 2017 model. Our 2018s come in about a week. And we're going to be doing a lot of testing when those come in, and I'll talk to you guys about the little differences. They're pretty similar to what this is. There's a few minor detailed differences, and when they come in, we're going to be doing a ton of testing. So we'll start at the front of the cart and work our way back on the details. As I said, it's got 17 mil spindles with hub mount, and the bearings that they used are definitely the freest rolling of any bearing I've dealt with as a factory bearing. They just spun forever. Nice little touch. They've got a snap ring instead of the standard E-clip at the end of the spindle. And I like that they used the copper nuts for the studs. I like the copper nuts a little better than just the standard steel ones. You'll notice on this cart and any of the CompKarts that they're really proud of their logo and their company. And they've got it die cut and laser etched and stamped all over the graphics. And it's almost like Finding Waldo. It's just everywhere, and it's kind of cool. You know, you'll see it here on the spindle arm and also on the steering support and just all over the place. Nice little touch for the heim joints here is they use the from washers, and from stands for free range of movement. So basically, instead of using stepped washers and multiple washers, these are actually a machine dished washer. And so no matter how the steering is done, the angle, you're going to have full range of movement, and it won't bind up at all. So that's kind of cool. Standard from the factory comes with a neutral bottom pill and a 1 degree top pill for the camber caster adjusters. One thing that's really pretty cool that CompKart does is they manufacture their own pills, and you can have anywhere between 0 or +5 to -5 or anywhere in between. They've got a bunch of different pill accessories, and this is something I've never seen before. It's actually a ball joint built into the pill, so it won't bind up at all. You know, most of the time on the camber caster systems, when you want to go positive or negative, you're actually stacking and offsetting the washers and binding up the spindle within the frame. So with this system, it doesn't bind up at all. Everything is basically perfectly aligned. It'll align the spacers as well as the spindle within the camber system. So that's really cool. So anywhere between neutral or +5 to -5 is the full range of movement. You'll notice here that there's a bung welded right here, and this is the standard pedal position. You can actually dismount this pedal and move it 6 inches further back. So for the shorter drivers or the junior drivers, You no longer have to have pedal extensions or pedal boxes or accessories. It's just one bolt and you can move it back 6 inches. And then from there, you can start the pivot point from anywhere you want. So you can mount it here and then still have it angled way further back. So that's a really, really cool feature on here that I've never seen before. The return spring actually mounts around the bolt and goes around the pedal, which is, it's a really heavy duty spring. And it's just got a perfect resistance on it. It's really nice. And obviously you can see here the pedal stops for forward and back. The pedals themselves, they've got a nice wide contact patch here, and these are also have a flat spot on the pedals. So a lot of us have the really thin racing shoes, and it kind of hurts on the side here, to be honest, on some of the regular round pedals. So this should probably help alleviate a little bit of that issue right there by having a bigger contact patch. Obviously it's got a front strut bar, and then obviously here it's got the for the throttle cable, and it's nice that again that it's angled up just to the perfect angle of the pedal instead of going flat and then needing to angle up. It's all the little touches like that that just kind of add up to a really nice chassis. So here's the heel stop, and it's on a sliding track. So it's not on individual holes, it's just the two bolts here you just loosen up and it moves forward and back. And one thing I've never seen before, and again it's a CompKart piece, is this fairing mount. It's not just a standard fairing mount. It's actually their own piece, and what's cool is it's height adjustable. So depending on what height or angle you run the nose cone at, and you can change the nose cone angle for different aerodynamics or actually different nose cones. It's really cool that this keeps the right tension amount. Normally on all the other karts, I've got to stack washers up underneath the fairing just to get the spacing right. This was really cool to have here, and it made this mount just perfectly, the perfect tension that I needed, and that's really, really cool, I thought. Here's just a little closer look at the pedals. This is the brake pedal here. And you can see the heel stop. And here's that cool fairing mount. And again, it's got their logo cut into it. So there's all the adjustment holes right there, so you can get the tension just right on the height. And one other thing, on the floor pan, you'll notice everywhere else the bolt head is on the top. Over here by the pedals, you'll notice that they reversed it and they put it over, they have a tab welded a little bit higher, and that way your heels don't hit the bolt. So again, everything, they've put every little thought into this chassis, which is really, really cool. There's a tab welded onto the frame right here, and here you can see this rubber grommet, and you can rotate this depending on what engine you have. What this is for your throttle cable, so you don't have to have tie wraps going underneath the frame. It's a really cool little touch, and it just keeps a nice and clean look on this chassis. Also right here, these are for your fuel lines. So again, you don't have to have tie wraps all over the place. It just keeps everything. And these gussets right here, they're actually recessed, so it's nice to be able to have the fuel line go right through here as well. The bottom seat mounts, you can see that they're bolt on. So I'm sure some of you guys have seen that they can break on other chassis. You'll never have that problem on here. You can just simply bolt the new one on. Also, if you have a junior driver, as they're growing and the seat moves more forward or back, you could extend this with a longer bolt and have spacers, and you're not going to have to drill a bunch of holes in the bottom of your seat. And that's a really cool little touch as well. The steering wheel is a really, really nice feel. It's got almost an Alcantara grip on the side, and it's got carbon on the bottom and on the top, and obviously you can see the logo right here. Another little nice touch is the gussets for the side bumpers. They're angled up like, I don't know, 5 degrees or so. So instead of keeping flat, they're angling them up, and that way you're not going to be dragging the bumper bars on the bottom of the bumpers as the kart is rotating. I thought that was a really, really cool little touch. And again, it's just all the little things that add up on this chassis to just a fantastic kart. Here's a close-up of the steering wheel. It's really cool looking. And it's a nice feeling. The angle of it's just right, and it's got good grip on it. It's a really nice steering wheel. For 2018, the steering hub is angled, stock from the factory. You'll see the fairing bracket has a double mount when normally this mounts on this single bolt, and it almost puts a little tension on the bushing here. Because of this double bolt here, there's no tension and the steering shaft just rolls really smoothly. It's kind of nice. We had SweetTech custom order us some fuel line that'll match, and they've also got their standard blue, so between the two, it'll look really, really cool on this chassis here. That catch can, that comes from the factory as well. There's a few things that we replaced on this chassis that don't come stock. I mean, as you see it here, it's 99.9% out of the box, but a lot of customers have us do like an upgraded hardware package, and it's just a few minor things. Like instead of the quick disconnect pins, you know, we put anodized washers here. We swapped out the color of the washers for the steering wheel. You know, the tie rod ends, we put the blue anodized washer and a different bolt on for the tie rod ends. Just a few very minor things like that. This chassis, as it comes from the factory stock, is really, really complete and with really super nice components. So there's, like I said, there's only a few minor things. Instead of a hex head bolt on the where the bumper, the side bumpers mount, we replaced those with, again, an anodized washer. Again, just a few minor things like that. You can see the blue one just poking through the steering wheel right there. So this cart from the factory comes really, really nicely put together. So here we are at the rear of the cart, and as you can see, it has a 50mm axle. I'm really glad CompKart decided to go with 50mm in the back and the 17mm spindles up front. I really feel that on 206 and even KA, the 25mm up front is just overkill. It's just going to bind the chassis up unnecessarily. And on 50mm, that's kind of the standardized, you know, of modern karting technology. So you're going to have endless possibilities of stiffnesses for axles, anywhere from super soft to super hard and anywhere in between. I know some manufacturers state that you should go to a 40mm on the lower horsepower carts. I don't believe in that philosophy because you're really limited to only a few axle choices on 40mm. And on the 50, you've got less rotational weight on the 50 because the larger diameter tubing you can go to a thinner wall. So now you have less material, as well as the carriers for like the brake and sprocket. You can see the diameter that is. If it has to go down to a 40mm hole, now you're going to have an extra 10mm of material for the hubs. So this is going to have less rotational weight than a 40mm axle. And again, you've got so many axle choices. You could get to the same stiffness by going to a particular medium on a 50mm. You could get that same stiffness as, say, just a regular medium on a 40. So I really feel that the 50 is the way to go. And the rotational weight on this cart is definitely the lightest out of any carts that we've dealt with yet. It doesn't have any extra weight that you just don't need. You know, other systems might have a beefier brake system, but you don't need that on the low horsepower. It's just overkill. And you can see that this rotor has a lot of venting on the rotor itself. So it's got more than enough cooling capacity. The brake pads are a banana brake system, and so the contact patch is a really large contact patch on the brake pads. And basically, the bigger the contact patch, the deeper you can go into the turns. And the reason why is the smaller the contact patch, it's going to bind up on the rotor and lock the brake up sooner. Whereas if it spreads that load out, it's not going to lock that brake rotor up as soon. So you're going to be able to go deeper before it actually locks up. And again, the bearings on this cart, they're just really, really, really free. You know, once this thing goes out for the first time and these bearings kind of free up a little bit, it's going to spin forever. I test drove one a few weeks ago, and with it fully assembled in the tires, the thing spun for like a minute and a half. The carriers on the sprocket, again, everything is just lightweight. The rotor carrier is lightweight, doesn't have any extra material on it, and just the form and the function, it's made to go fast. The wheels are the Freeline magnesium wheels. You have your choice of either the 180mm or the 212mm. So again, that's kind of like 6" or 7". You've got your choice. The bumper on the back, you can go with the one-piece bumper like what this one is. Or let's say you're a heavier guy and you want to save a little bit of weight, you can also go and choose the 3-piece bumper as well. So it's nice that you can kind of choose which one you want to on this chassis. Here on the cassette, you'll notice that there's 6 holes. One thing really unique to this chassis is that it's wheelbase adjustable. Most chassis wheelbases are 1,040 millimeters, and this chassis on the 3 positions is about 1015, 1025, and 1035. So at its longest position, it's about 5 millimeters shorter than, say, a standard tag chassis. And when I drove this chassis a few weeks ago, one thing I noticed, and I had it just at this 1025 position, I was able to pivot the cart easier than I was normally able to on other chassis. I'm not talking about like rotating a cart, I'm talking about just pivoting it on a flat plane. On a 4-stroke, we don't, or even the K8, we don't really have the power to steer the cart around like you would on a shifter or a tag. So the longer the wheelbase, you're just kind of dragging the back end around. So the shorter the wheelbase, you're able to rotate the cart a little bit easier, and you don't need the length because we're not going as fast around the turn, so you don't need the stability of the full length. So the theory is the shorter, tighter the track, the shorter the wheelbase. The more open the turns, the longer the wheelbase. So this gives you the adjustability, and you also have the height adjustability on the 2 positions. And I definitely noticed it was easier to pivot it even at the 1025 millimeter position. And here you can see that it's got the CompKart, logo etched into the cassettes here. And here is the motor stop for it right here as well. The bumper brackets are just the standard KG bumper brackets. And one thing that's kind of cool is all the bushings, they're all anodized aluminum. You don't have the nylon bushings that are going to break as easily. So again, all the material on here is just really, really nice. You can see the gussets right here. These are for the KA. So the wiring harness for the KA, you're going to be able to put the cabling over here and just tie wrap over here. And this is a tab here that you can use for the starter box on the KA over here. And again, towards the end of the video, I'll talk to you about the little bit of differences on the new 2018 that comes here in a couple weeks, or actually in a week. You'll also notice that there's no seat strut. So it's got a removable seat strut. You can put it wherever you need it to be, and just like any other chassis, you're going to have to probably move this inside or outside depending on how big of a seat that you've got. Here's a close-up of the brake system. As you can see, it's a single blade rotor, and it's actually about 1/4 inch thick, so it's pretty thick for a single blade. And you can see how much venting it actually has. So you're not going to have to worry about the brakes overheating or anything, especially on the low horsepower. The less rotational weight is going to be more beneficial than having a big brake system on it. So again, you're going to be able to accelerate a little bit quicker because everything on the rear axle is just super light. The rotor itself is static, and the pads themselves float. It's actually a single piston caliper, and it's actually an old school design. And I asked them why they went with this design, and they said, well, we tried all the newer systems and the self-adjusting, and for the 4-stroke with the particular master cylinder that they have, this is actually what worked the best. It was low maintenance, and it stopped the best, gave it the best feel, and you could go a little bit deeper without the brake locking up on you. So again, it's just a little bit older technology, but it works fantastic for the low horsepower application. Plus, it's a really easy system to work on. Here's a bracket right here. This is if you're going to do KA, and again, it's just removable with the 2 bolts. So it comes stock with the brackets already here, and it also comes with an exhaust cradle if you're going to do KA. So it actually has several aspects for KA that you don't have to go out and buy additional parts if that's the class you're going to move up to. So this would be a great chassis if you're going to start out in 206 and then migrate up to KA. It's going to work fantastic for both. And here's just the bumper brackets here. And again, as part of our upgraded hardware kit, we've replaced these and put the colored anodized washers. Just a few minor things on this chassis. And here's the static seat strut, and obviously you can see the other seat strut isn't there. And you'll see the frame geometry. It's kind of a cross between a 4-stroke and a 2-stroke on the rear crossbar. It still has more than enough tolerance for fairly good sized gear in the back. So here's the front of the chassis, and again, it looks good from any angle. This cart just looks awesome. You'll be able to definitely see, if this is your cart, your family's definitely going to be able to see you out there. So we'll talk about the components and then we'll wrap this video up. So it comes with this 2-stroke motor mount and some butterflies. So again, if you're going to do KA, it's just a basic mount, but if you're on a budget, you can get yourself a nice chassis, and now you've got a few of the accessories to get you going to start out with. Comes with a little mount and then just a strap chain guard here. Here's the rear hubs. It's nice that it's got a hardened bolt, and I don't know if it comes up in video, but on the inside there's actually grooves cut, and that's going to help it hook onto the axle a little bit better, so you're not going to have as many issues of the rear hub trying to slide in on you while you're doing a race. Catch can mount, and it comes with the bolts as well. One thing kind of cool about this catch can, it's got a little recess on the bracket and then the tabs on the bottle, so that's keeping the tension on the bottle, and then the O-ring just keeps it snapped in place, whereas the other ones that the O-ring is actually holding the tension on the whole bottle itself. So that's kind of cool. Here's the missing seat strut right here. It's got a little bit of an angle so that it'll contour towards the seat, and it's a nice beefy mount, aluminum clamps on the bottom. Comes with some seat struts as well in the box, and again they have the laser etch of the CompKart on there. Also comes with the exhaust cradle if you're going to do the KA100. Here's the Freeline magnesium wheels. These are really nice wheels. So again, you have your choice of either the 180 or the 212 for the rear. So that's either 6 or 7. And some of us, we stretch the 6-inch tire on a 7-inch wheel. But again, you've got the choice, which is kind of cool. Here's the steering shaft, and you got the different Ackerman positions here. Again, it's got the CompKart logo on there. Here's a really nice steering wheel. It's got the carbon weave on the top and the bottom, and the fluorescent accents on it. What's kind of nice, you won't need to have an extra bracket to hold your Micron. Micron will bolt right up to it. And here's the angled hub that'll be used for the new 18s right here. Here's the spindle. You can see the 3 Ackerman positions, and again you've got their logo that's die cut into here. It's really nice. It also comes with some decals if you're going to get a chain guard for the KA100. Now on the 2018, it comes with the factory with the really nice Freeline chain guard, and it comes with all the brackets and everything. So again, it's going to save you a little bit of money on without having to buy the few other accessories to get the KA100 to work for you. A few options that you can do on this chassis or any of the parts. Just a couple little things. This is a steering block. This is where the steering shaft mounts through. And inside of here, there's actually needle bearings. And also you have multi-position. So this is just going to make the steering effort a little bit easier. So that's a nice touch. This is a really nice piece, and it comes with some anodized washers as well. This is a multi-tool. CompKart, they make a lot of custom components. And this tool here is, it adjusts the brakes, it adjusts the camber caster pills, it'll adjust spark plug, it'll adjust quite a few things, so it's kind of a cool little thing. These don't come with the chassis, these are just a few things that CompKart manufactures that are kind of cool. Here's the factory seat that it comes with, and again you've got your choice to choose whatever size you want, but this is the factory seat. If you want to upgrade to a tilt seat, we do have an upgrade option where we'll take this seat and credit you some money, and then you can go ahead and get a tilt if you'd like. But this is actually a really nice seat. This is soft is what the stiffness is. So for the 18s, the few little differences on the 18s than this. One is the chain guard. 2, these bolts right here for the bumper fairings, instead of being vertical, they're horizontal, so they're just turned 90 degrees. For the KA, This chassis already has one tab welded onto the frame, but it's going to have additional tabs welded on for the battery box and the starter. So you won't have to have the chassis clamps underneath the chassis. The bolts will go right up and you're not going to grind off the bolts off the starter box. So that's kind of cool. It'll have a water pump bracket and a radiator bracket on there as well. This seat strut is moved 1 centimeter forward, so that's like 3/8 of an inch. The steering wheel, the design on it is a little bit different. Instead of having the holes on the spokes here, it's going to have, again, like the 3 lines with the CompKart in there, and the shape is going to be just a tiny bit different, but almost identical to what these are. And that's really about it. So it's just a couple of minor things for the new 2018. And again, this is the CompKart Covert 4R, and this is built specifically for the 206 and the KA100. And like I say, everything about these carts, everything is just as good as you could ever ask for. I've been really impressed with this cart so far, and really excited to be able to test this in another couple of weeks. We're going to do a ton of testing on it. And everything about CompKart and J3 Competition, who makes CompKart, these chassis are made in Italy, and you couldn't ask for anything better than what this is. It's a really cool chassis, and everything that they have designed, they've designed for a reason. So anyways, again, this is Patrick with Karting Concepts, and this is the CompKart Covert 4R. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.